Welcome back to Wealth Builders. I have today Bri Conn, and we're going to jump right into this conversation because I know that's what y'all want, and that's how I like doing this thing. Welcome, Bri. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you so much for having me today. I'm very excited to be here.
It's really exciting. Bri's coming to us from outside Cleveland, Ohio. And I won't tell you what I said to her about Ohio, but anyway, Ohio's a fine state.
Oh,
Many fine people in Ohio, and I've talked to quite a few of them. Anyway, go ahead. I'll go right to the question before I get myself into a lot of trouble over here. Bri, tell us about your money story. How did you come to learn about money? Do you remember your childhood influences? Do you still have those thoughts that you had as a child, or have you overcome them, or they served you? Just jump right into your money story.
So, my grandparents were incredibly influential in how I have looked at money throughout my life and viewed it the entire time. I always tell people this, and I just see the image so clearly in my head to this day. My grandma had Dave Ramsey's book, Total Money Makeover, him and his scissors. First thing you saw when you walked into the house, it was in her kitchen facing the door. So, that was always something that I saw all the time. Didn't really know much about it or what it was. But then in every single birthday card we would get, or every single Christmas card, anything like that, she would always give us money, and then she would also give us a savings bond. And eventually it became just twice the amount of cash. And then a note in there that said, you need to save half of this.
Okay.
And it was very much save, save, save. You pay everything in cash. If you don't have the cash for it, you can't afford it. That was their belief system. Parents were very much the same way, just big into you need to use cash for everything. You need to use cash for everything. I remember being younger and saying, well, why couldn't we get a new vehicle? Because I just didn't like our vehicle. I was really embarrassed by it. And I wanted us to have a new one. And my mom said, no, it's paid for. We're not going to get a new vehicle. We don't need it. That's silly. It's paid for. That's done. Conversation over. Okay. Didn't understand it. And I just kept learning, you only pay for things in cash. But I didn't know what that meant. And I really didn't understand how to actually budget or how to use money effectively. I knew that I had a check register and I had a debit card. And as long as I could prove what I spent my money on with the check register, which we don't even use anymore,
Right.
as long as I wrote down what I bought, when I bought it, the store I bought it, and the amount it was, and turned that into my parents, my account would be refilled. I would get more money.
Okay.
And unfortunately, life doesn't work like that. I can't just say this is what I spent it on and go to the bank and they give me more. So I kept going with that and eventually found myself in college. I came out as LGBTQ when I was in my second year of college, and I thought I was going to be disowned. I grew up in a very conservative, very religious family and fully expected to be completely disowned. And so I had been working really hard. At one point, it was 4 different jobs on top of full-time college.
Okay.
Because I was expecting that I was going to have no money.
Okay.
And that was hard. That was really hard.
Yeah.
I did not get disowned. My parents are fantastic. They're great. But that's what kind of catapulted me into the world of personal finance. It's because I had done all these things and then I knew I was going to be coming out and finally admitting to everybody my life and who I really was. I had built up all this money now because I was expecting to need it to live. And then I didn't need it to live as my parents were funding my college. And then I didn't know what to do with it. So I went on the internet, as one does, and found different Instagram accounts and podcasts and YouTube channels when I was in college. And that's where I went.
Okay. So back to you had to write down what you had spent your money on and give it to your parents so that they would refill your account if they felt that what you had spent your money on was worthy, or was it just as long as you had kept track of it?
As long as I kept track of it.
So by that, you learn how to keep track of it, even though no, you don't get to spend it and then show somebody and then get some more. We'll get that. But you did learn that habit of keeping track of what's happening. Yes?
Yeah. It was very reactive, though. It was never, I had to plan ahead. I never had to budget for it. It was just as long as you tracked it after the fact.
Yeah. Got it.
So that's
Got
what
it.
worked.
And your parents had saved up enough to send you to college so you didn't have any loans for school?
Yes, I was very fortunate, never had any student loans. My parents paid for all of that, and whatever wasn't scholarships was paid for through my family and my parents.
Okay.
So,
And then this whole who I am, your discovery of who you are and feeling like your parents might not accept you led you to, before you were about to tell them who you really are, save up a bunch of money so that you could live on your own if
mhm,
the thing that you thought was going to happen happened.
yeah,
I
I
just
was
want to
like,
make sure we got that story straight. Okay.
correct.
How
Yep.
much had you saved up before you decided to come out?
I saved up enough. I never give real numbers, but I saved up enough. So
To last you for how long?
I could have lasted probably 6 months to a year at
Okay.
that point with my
Okay.
current spending. So,
Okay. And would that have included living in, having to get a house and continuing college, or did you wait till you were almost done with college to let them know?
no, I told them it was like September of my sophomore year of college. So it was
Okay.
pretty soon. And I was still working too. So I
Okay.
knew if I keep working, if I keep doing this, I can cover my expenses. I'm real cheap about a lot of things.
Okay.
So I was okay.
So you were a frugal spender at that
Mhm.
time. Let me ask you, did you know how much money your parents were back before you were in college when they were giving you your allowance and you had to turn in what you had spent money on? Did you know how much money you were going to get each time?
Mm-mm. I never knew. I
Okay.
actually never knew they were going to pay for anything until it would be time for the next semester to start. And they were always like, no, we're not filling out these forms. We're not doing this because you're not going to get money anyway. And I was like, but I need money. How am I going to live? They're like, nope, just apply for scholarships. And then at the last second, they'd be like, by the way, check your account. Here's money. Now pay your tuition.
Got it. I was actually referring to back before you got in college when you said that
Mhm.
you had to write down what you spent your money. Did you have to do that before you got in college? You'd write down what you
Yep.
spent money on and then give it to them and then they'd replenish your account?
Yeah, that was all throughout high school. So I grew up in South Dakota, and there you can drive when you're 14.
Okay.
And so I was in eighth grade when I started driving to school.
Okay.
And so I had a debit card because I had to go get gas and all of those things. Or they would say, hey, we need you to go get groceries. So it was very much, we know we're going to tell you to spend money on certain things because we want you to pick this up for us.
Yeah.
Uh, but yeah, I had it all throughout high school.
And did you know how much money you were going to get, or they just replenished what you had
Mm-mm.
spent?
I never knew how much it was. There was never a sense of this is what it's going to be. It's just, here you go. My parents will
Okay.
never, ever, even to this day, they're very quiet about a lot of things. It's just a surprise. Here you
Okay.
go.
Okay. So okay, and another thing I was going to talk about is Dave Ramsey. So this was your grandparents who had the book?
Yeah. Yep.
I didn't know Dave Ramsey had been around that long as a financial guy. I was like, wow, it seemed like it was not that long ago. Maybe because I just started paying attention. I don't know. So he's been
Yeah.
around for quite a while, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
His smile and the scissors and the credit card. I just like that image just burned into my memory. So, yeah.
And is that how your grandparents live the same way? But
Mhm.
cash, no credit, don't go into debt.
Yep.
Did they own property? They own houses, real estate, that kind of thing?
Yeah, they owned a house. They're always very proud of it. They owned a house and they actually were farmers.
Uh-huh.
And so they farmed their entire lives.
Do you know if they bought their house with a mortgage or they bought it cash?
That's a great question. I'm not exactly sure, but it was like ages ago. So,
As far as it was
yeah.
paid for by the time you were
Yep.
doing anything. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Well, it's all very interesting. I like to understand generationally how we came to it. And you brought up your grandmother and the Ramsey, and then your
Mhm.
parents, and now we're to you. And you started financial education actually fairly early. And
Mhm.
it sounds like it was more, yes, you have money to spend. You just spend it. Were you aware of how much money was in your account when you would go out to buy something? You had this much money to spend. I know I can buy these groceries because I've got this money in my account.
It would be here you go. We added this much to your account. And so I knew, but I didn't fully grasp it.
Okay.
And I knew, hey, they might ask me that I need to pick something up. But for the most part, they weren't, it wasn't like a common thing that I have to go pick things up. So I usually knew, well, I could get away with going and shopping. I had this really bad shopping habit of going to this boutique and spending hundreds of dollars multiple times a week for a little bit. And then they put the kibosh on that one. So I knew what I could get away with spending and have them just be like, fine, whatever.
Okay.
But yeah.
And it started when you were in 8th grade, or it started even before that?
I think it was 8th grade, because it would have been when I started driving myself to school.
And you saw the Dave Ramsey with your grandmother even earlier than 8th grade?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, that would have been around for a while.
And that's when you got the message of debt is bad. You always want cash. If you don't have the money for it, don't buy it. That was the lessons that you got as a child.
Yes. Like, my dad drove the car that my parents brought me home from the hospital in for years. Like, he had to literally bolt the inside door panel onto the car because it was falling off. And he had a pickup that they had bought brand new when I was pretty young. And it basically was a garage ornament the first 15 years that they had it. And then he ended up using it after that and sold it. But yeah, my mom in the summer still drives the very first car that I had. You cannot drive that car on the highway. It is not safe to drive on the highway. There is no air conditioning. There is no heat. My sibling has hauled sheep in it before. And so it's like disgusting. But yeah, my mom still drives it around in the summer all the time.
Okay. Yeah. I know there's people out here who can relate to all of this, that this is how your families were. And now, I'm sorry, you guys. Well, I had turned that off. And now you're struggling or trying to figure out, okay, why do I have these thoughts in my head that I don't deserve anything, or I shouldn't do anything, or I should always only have cash to do things? And when you look back at your childhood, and I'm told it's by the age of 7, your money message has been put there. And if you want to change it, it's some work to do to change it. But first, recognizing what it is very, very important. Okay. So you're in college. You saved up a bunch of money in case you had to be out on your own. Turned out you didn't have to be out on your own. Now I've got a bunch of money. What am I going to do? So that's when you turn to, we know your age because you said Instagram.
Yeah. Yes.
Got books.
Not quite young enough for TikTok to be my main thing, but Instagram was my thing. Actually, I don't even know if TikTok was around when I was in college. So
might not, but Instagram, and you've got some folks on there teaching about financial. Did you go to Dave Ramsey too?
Not really. I looked at some things and I know the teachings, but I wasn't super into it. Okay. I had some other family too, who are very Dave Ramsey, and they would always have the same spiel for me. So I already knew a lot of what that whole thing was. But at that point, he would say, okay, invest 15% of what you're making. And I was like, what do you do if you just have money lying around that you don't need? What do you do then? And I wasn't in the place where I necessarily needed Dave Ramsey style guidance, because I had that ingrained into me for so long. And it was, no, but what do I do to make this money work for me now?
So you did have an idea, and you said money I don't need. And I don't know if very many people are out there thinking they have money they don't need. That being said, there's sometimes money that you have that's not designated or tagged for something and I think that's what you mean by money I don't need. I don't need to use this right now. And did you go to in your mind then, or is this a newer way to think about it? What can this money do for me?
It was more of I have this money. There's nothing I'm going to spend it on. So what can I do to make sure that I'm set up for a solid future and retire? Because I have other family members who just love to talk about retirement. And so, well, they're talking about retirement and they keep telling me about this. Maybe I should figure it out.
Okay. All right. Okay. So now, what did you learn? What did you learn that you put into practice, or where did this road lead you?
Yeah, I learned a little bit about, okay, first of all, I had my money sitting in a credit union that was paying me like 0.01%, I think. And I went, okay, well, I need an emergency fund. Well, let's figure out what exactly that looks like. Okay, I've got my emergency fund set. Let's put that into a high yield savings account.
Okay.
All right, I've done that. I still have more. I don't really know what to do. And I went, okay, well, I'm making enough that I will use the money that I've been making throughout the year, but then I can put some of this into a Roth IRA. And I had looked this up at just the perfect time. It was the start of a new year and it was before tax season. So I was able to put in for 2 years worth of money at one go.
Okay.
And that was just like solid timing. I also got some apps, investing apps, and the ones that were just automated and would do it for me, and a little bit of robo-advisor and a brokerage account. I did that, and then realized later, oh, I probably shouldn't have done that in that way. I could have done something a little bit different. That's where I started out, and then I realized I'm working. Let's make sure I'm putting money away when I'm working too
Okay.
from my paychecks.
And at this point, your plan is retirement. I want to,
Mhm.
there's going to be a day when I'm not going to work and I'm going to need to live.
Yeah.
That was your thought process at that time. And
Yeah.
was your thought process you were going to work until you were 65, 70, 80, or did you have a number in mind?
I don't know that I really had a number. It was just, this sounds cool, so I'll do it.
Okay.
It was I was in college. I didn't really care too much about a lot of things.
Uh-huh.
That it was just, okay, I know everybody talks about retirement and says that they wish they had more in retirement. And so it's like, well, I'll put some away now.
Okay. So it was not as much thinking about it as this is what's happening. This is what people are saying. I guess I should get ready for this thing called retirement without a
Mhm.
thought as to what that is or when that would be.
Yep.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Got it. And did you graduate from college with your degree?
I did.
What was your
Yep.
degree?
I got a degree in communication.
Communications. Okay.
Mhm.
And then you got a job doing.
I was working in marketing and I actually graduated a little bit before the pandemic.
Okay.
And so when I graduated, I was planning to move across the country. And so I was training somebody into the job that I was in marketing. And then the new job I had gotten, the offer got rescinded because of COVID. It was a travel position.
Okay.
And so it was only meant for travel. It wasn't everything was canceled.
Yeah.
And I felt really bad saying, sorry, I trained you into this job, so I'm going to keep it. And I decided, no, that's not fair to that person. So I said, okay, I'm still going to quit as planned. And then I spent a few months of just living life and figuring out what was next and going, well, I was okay at that point. I still had extra money.
Yeah.
And so I just took a couple months and figured it out. I went to another marketing job eventually and was there for a while and kept doing marketing, and then eventually got burnt out of marketing and decided to switch to finance.
You got burned out of marketing, so you switched to finance.
Yep.
Talk about that leap.
It was very natural, I think, for me because I'd already been so into the financial world and just working on my own personal finances. And I was quickly realizing that the idea I had gotten from a lot of the sources I was following at the time, who were very anti-financial planner, very anti-financial advisor, worked up until a point, and then it didn't work anymore, and you actually need professional help.
Okay.
And that job I had taken in marketing, when I had somebody come in, it was my first experience with a financial professional. This guy walks in and he goes, "Do you even know what a retirement account is?" And I was so mad because I did. I knew what a retirement account was. I'd been putting money away for a few years at that point. And so I just said, yeah. And I've been doing it by myself for a few years. I do.
Okay.
And I realized there has to be a better way than that, than having somebody who walks in, doesn't even say hello, is just straight up condescending. And I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be somebody who would help other people. Personal finance was my hobby. All my friends knew that I was really into personal finance. My family knew that. And so everybody would come to me and ask questions. And I decided, well, if everybody's going to ask me questions about this, I'm going to be looking it up constantly on my own. I might as well just make it my job. And that's what I've done.
Okay. All right. So you had the kind of, this is how I see some of the financial people, especially associated with your job, as I feel that they're very paternalistic and just let me take care of it, honey. You don't even know what you're talking about or thinking about.
Yeah.
And just put your money in this suitcase, even though we don't actually get to touch our money, but it'll come directly to me and I'll take care of you. Don't worry about that. And that drives me nuts.
It does. And he came in and he had a couple funds highlighted and he said, this is what all your coworkers do. And I'm like, you have 3 pages of different funds here that I can choose from. And you're highlighting these ones and telling me that's what all my coworkers do. First of all, none of my coworkers are anything like me. I'm a lot younger than most of them. I think the closest one in age was maybe like a 7 or 8 year difference.
Okay.
And listen, pal, I already know what I'm doing a bit. And I know that these funds that you're picking for me actually are not that great.
Yeah.
They're super high fee. They're not doing super well. Give me the list and I'll pick my own. Thank you. So that's what I did.
So, and I know from a previous job I had, we had one company, Fidelity, that was our company that we could invest through the company. And the company matched 3%. Da, 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 da. So, but you had like you said, you have a list of things you can invest in. And yes, you can choose. And there's only a list.
Yeah.
Or you could just give it to them and let them do it and hope for the best, which again drives me crazy. Nobody cares about your money more than you do. So you have to take some control of it. Even if you just, it's hard. I know everybody's working hard. It's like, I can't do all of that stuff. And I 100% get it. But even a once a month conversation for 15 minutes, hey, this is what we got going on. If you don't want to do anything else but to call Fidelity, just say that's your company or whatever the one is, and say, hey, what's happening with my investments? Somebody should talk to you. That's the least to do. We're going to get into some more in-depth things to do, but it's still not hard. It's just a matter of wrapping your mind around making sure you're going to have the money you want for what you want it for. Now, many of our financial planners talk to us about having money for retirement, yes, having money to leave to whoever we're going to leave it to. It seems like their teaching and the way the overall conversation is about the legacy to your children. Yeah. And I never thought about this until I was introduced to you and a Childfree Wealth. And honestly, I know, yes, I have children, but I don't think about leaving money to my children.
Yeah. Yes.
Think about spending it. And if there's some left, you can have it. But it's what I want to do. So that's why I wanted us to have this conversation, because I can't be the only one out there thinking like this. I refuse to believe I'm the only one thinking like this. So are all of your clients and customers that come to you as a certified financial planner, are they all without children or some with children and want to just get a more holistic view of their financial plan? Or how does that work with you guys?
All of our clients, I would say, primary clients, and primary being they reached out to us initially, are people who are child-free. So they don't have kids. They're not planning on having kids.
Okay.
And then we do get clients that do have kids, but they're parents of our child-free clients. And so they weren't necessarily out here searching for child-free wealth or something like that. They just happened to, their child works with us. Now we're working with them because it really is beneficial to our client to figure out a plan. Many times our clients are like, I have no idea what my parents have. I have no idea even what their plan is for long-term care. What do I need to figure out? And how can I do that? And that's when we say, we can work with your parents and they can become a client. Sometimes it will be a situation in which we work with the parents individually and the parents have their own meeting, the child has their meeting, or sometimes it's, hey, that parental meeting, one of the children is also going to join the call as well. And it's like a family call almost. It's not that the parent is reaching out to us first ever.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this. Childfree Wealth financial planning. Are you guys the only company that's doing this, or are there other companies that do this specifically? So like, I know this is your bailiwick, but are there
Yep.
others that do this and can advise? Well, sure they can, but do they advise? And then and the next thing is going to be, how is your advice or how is your financial planning different? We can't give specifics because we don't have a specific situation, but as a general conversation,
Yeah.
how's it different?
So as far as we know, we are the first one to have done it. There are some other people that are popping up now. Usually they reach out to us though, and they're
Okay.
like, hey, we want to do this. I have talked to people who have tried to do this, and whatever reason, it's actually really interesting. I talked to somebody and he said, I wanted to work with child-free people, and then I just got so much hate because of it that I had to stop. I couldn't take it anymore. And so I really applaud you, which is fair. We do get a lot of hate online usually it's not super public. It's people will reach out to us directly and be mean,
And what's the meanness around?
saying that we're depopulating the world or we hate kids or all these other things, just like making these claims that I'm like, you have no idea anything about me.
Like, what?
Yeah, exactly. Do you
Wait.
know me?
Wait, I didn't tell these people not to have kids. They decided
Yeah.
not to have kids and come to us. And then what are we supposed to do? Tell them you need to have children? Come on now. Okay.
Exactly.
People need, okay, we won't go there. Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's wild sometimes.
okay.
So
Anyway, so couples, women, men who decide they're not going to have children and want to work with some and are frustrated with the advice that they may be getting, or that if it's not even direct, it's a much more covert conversation around what you're leaving your mind. Because nobody's ever said to me, leave to your children or anything like that. It's just more of it's like it's an assumed thing.
Yep.
And this conversation, I'm assuming with you, doesn't have that same assumption in there that you're going to be leaving something to somebody.
No. We are very direct with our clients. On our onboarding form, there's a couple different questions. The first one says, do you want to have kids? Yes, no, or maybe. And if you answer yes or maybe, we say, hey, come back to us. Yes, if yes, you want kids, we'll give you somebody to go to who can specialize in that, because there are people. And then if you say maybe, we'll say, come back to us if you are for sure no. Just because until then, we're probably not going to be the right firm for you.
Okay.
But if you say no, we're like, perfect, we're good to go. Then our next question on there is, do you care about how much money you leave behind when you die? And some people will say, yes, they care. Some people will say no. Many of our clients, our child-free clients, will say, no, I don't care. There's not really anybody that is there that I'd want to leave it to. Or sometimes they'll say, yes, I want to give to a charity or give to this or that. Or I've got nieces and nephews I want to give to. And then when that happens, we'll say, oh, yes, definitely. Let's go through how that conversation. Let's also look at the idea of maybe it might be more beneficial to help them throughout your life too. So you can see the impact of it. And then in the case of charity, you can also get a tax deduction, which might mean that you can give a little bit more than you thought. So what does that look like? We just have different conversations. But for the most part, our clients will say, no, they don't care about how much money they leave behind. In fact, it's so common that clients will say that when I have a client that says, yes, I do care about how much money I leave behind and I have a specific amount I want to leave, or I don't want to plan to die with zero, that kind of throws me off because I'm just in the realm of, okay, we're aiming to die with zero, most of our clients, that it throws me off. It's like, it's not bad. It's just, that's not the world I live in every day. Yeah.
And I can imagine just thinking about parents, like, and if I die before my parents die, do I want to have something for them? Da, da, da. There's a lot to be thinking about in that whole conversation. If I don't to not have children, and I've been in the midst of care for my mother before she died. Now my dad's almost 90. So there's a lot going on that you could need to use your money for, even if you have no children. Okay. So your intake form, you find out if you're going to have kids. If you are, you rather they work somewhere else, or if they're not sure. Sounds like a vasectomy conversation.
Yeah.
Usually they've already had, actually, I've done a vasectomy on a few guys who have not had children. That's a kind of a long conversation just to make sure. And if a guy who comes in and gives me the kind of maybe, even if he's got 3, 4 kids, I'm like, yes, vasectomy is not a temporary thing here. You gotta come back for sure. Got
Yeah.
it. Okay. So I don't want to have any children. As the client comes in and says, I don't want to have any children, and I've just started my work. I'm 35 years old. What are the things that would be different in your conversation? And they don't want to be like, I don't really care. When I'm gone, I'm gone. The world will go on without me. I don't need to leave any money to anybody. Well, how are you directing or advising through their life, assuming they die when they're 90, 95, 100 years old?
Yep. We want to first talk about the standard life plan. And that's often what we'll just bring up with our clients to say, okay, you're no longer living the standard life plan anymore, which says you go to school, you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, you build wealth, you retire, and then when you die, you pass your money on to the next generation. Just awareness of that is a first step, because many times people aren't even aware of that, and they've been living that standard life plan for so long, and then they're made aware of it and they're going, oh, yeah, that's right. I can do different things.
Okay, I wanted to say that one more time. The standard of life plan, which sounds like it's written down somewhere, is what?
You're going to go to school, then you get married, you buy a house, you have kids, you build wealth, you retire, you die, and you pass your money on to the next generation.
Okay. I see so many places in that
Yeah.
standard of life that it's okay. No, no. Yes, I went to school. I had a job. I had
Yeah.
kids. Building wealth, but it's not going to be, there's a lot of different places where different things happen. And if your financial planner is living that standard of life plan for you, it's a good thing to know that's
Yeah.
what's happening, because there's places there that might not fit your standard life. Okay.
Exactly. Yeah.
So being aware of that is really important. I've never heard it before, so thank you.
Absolutely. So once you're aware of that and you realize that's not your life, you can really embrace the idea that you're going to have full control of your future. You get to make a lot of choices. You're not making choices. What I always like to tell people is if you don't have kids, you're not necessarily making a choice on where to live based on a school district.
Mm-hmm.
When I picked up and moved halfway across the country and made the decision in the span of 2 days, I didn't think about what the school district was like. I just went, okay, I like this area. I like it here. So I'm going to move here.
Yeah.
And having that realization of you can make choices, and they can be sometimes a little bit easier to make because you have fewer people involved. It's either yourself or if you're in a relationship, 2 people, usually making, if you're in a group, maybe a couple other people making that decision. It can be a little bit simpler versus where many parents will want to stay in a school district until their child graduates because they don't want to pull them from their friends. It's different. Neither one is the right answer. It's different.
Yeah.
Along with that, because you don't have the common things that often keep people in one area, you have a lot more flexibility. But you also need to plan for the flexibility because you can only truly have flexibility to pick up and move someplace if you have a solid financial foundation. If you're not going to have a solid financial foundation, it is much harder to make that decision to pick up and move in the span of 2 days because moving costs money and moving is not cheap. Many times you have to pay for the actual movers. You have to, whether or not you're selling a house or buying a house, you've got security deposits if you're renting, all of those different things.
And quitting a job that you may or may that just there's got to basically what you're talking about is having money so that you have options for what you're going to do. It lets you stay flexible when you have, whether you have the money sitting in an account somewhere or you have passive income, like what I like to talk about, money coming from things that's not about you running your wheel and making money.
Yep.
You want to have those options. And that's, and for me, I'm going to talk about the kids. So you have children, and I'm talking to you guys out there who might have kids. You could still, when you have money coming in passively, however, you can choose where your kids go to school. You can live where you want to live. And this is what we did. We paid for our kids to go to a school that was good for them because where we wanted to live, the school district wasn't that good, but we loved the neighborhood. So it's just a matter of having the money so you have options. This is children free or children full. Either way, having
Yeah.
options is the key, and having money gives you the options. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Go ahead. Keep
You're good.
talking.
You're good. Another one is there's often a lot of financial bingos. People will say, well, you don't have kids, so you can afford to do XYZ,
Mhm.
whether that be paying for parents and their long term care, or, oh, well, you can pay for this vacation and we'll go on it because you don't have kids, so you don't have as many responsibilities.
This is your brothers and
Like,
sisters talking to you now. I can hear.
yeah, exactly. I'm like, oftentimes when I have these conversations, I go, who told you that? And it'll be either like a sibling or a parent, or it's often a family member that's telling them this. I'm going, is that true though? I know that's not true. Do you know that's not true for yourself?
Great
So
question.
having those awareness and recognize that people are going to probably come out and ask those different things, and just being able to say, no, this is what I've decided. These are my boundaries, especially when it comes to caring for parents. I always like to tell people, hey, if you're going to care for parents, the first step in doing that is having a conversation with your spouse if you're in a relationship, or sitting down yourself if you're single and thinking through, what are those boundaries look like? Are you willing to care for them financially? And if so, put a number on that, put a hard number on that. Because if you wait until a time of crisis, you have no idea how you're necessarily going to respond. That can be super hard.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
stepping in those times, we just make different decisions when we're in crisis versus when we're not.
Yeah. Conversations about money before it's a problem or an issue is always going to be better
Yeah.
than when you're talking about it in emotional. Money tends to be emotional for a lot of people. And that's one thing I'm really working hard to make it not so emotional. It's a thing. It's a
Yeah.
fact. There's no judgment around it. It's just money. Everybody gets it. Everybody loses it. Everybody flows, buys things, moves on. It's just a thing. There's
Yeah.
no judgment about it. You
Yeah.
can decide what you're going to do. And you have sisters and brothers and cousins and moms and dads, and they're all trying to tell you what to do with your money. But it's your choice. And that
Yeah.
conversation is key, whether it's with yourself, where you get a planner or a spouse, somebody probably objective about it, like a planner, a certified financial planner, can help it be much less emotional, because
Yeah.
we can get into ourselves about that. And it's just comes back from that 7-year-old kid who learned about money the way they learned about money.
Yeah. We absolutely can. And that's something I'll tell clients. I'll say, hey, I'm looking at your money from an unemotional lens. I'm just looking at it as the numbers and the
Mhm.
facts. And I get that it's emotional, and I'm not discounting that, but you're coming to me for objective advice, and that's how I'm looking at it. And so the emotions aren't going to be as tied up in there.
Yeah.
And another thing too with that is, I had one client recently go, "She's just so calm all the time." Which to me I find very funny, because I don't think of myself as a calm person. I bounce off the walls all the time. But so many people have said, "Yeah, you're very calm when it comes to your work." And that's something you want when you're talking to somebody, is you want them to be calm. If you're talking to somebody and they're very all over the place and heightened state of awareness, and you're looking at your money, that might be a little bit difficult, because there might be some emotion that's seeking in there.
Yeah. Yeah. I would call that a red flag. You
Mhm.
want your person to be unemotional, and not towards you, but about
Yeah.
your money. They
Yep.
understand you and what your emotions are and what you want, which is very key. Your financial planner, should know you
Yep.
and what you want and what your life is and what your goals are, not a general population thing like the guy who came in and said, "Hey, here's the things your colleagues are investing in." I'm like, what the heck has that got to do with anything? That's not me. So that conversation is very, very key in getting your financial foundation set up. It's just important.
Yeah.
Um, Now, one of the things I've had people who come into our community, Wealth Builders community, talk about is they don't want to spend money. He's like, how much does it cost for her to do that? I was like, okay. So let's talk about that. There are
Yep.
planners that take a commission and take part of what you make off of whatever they've advised you to invest in or invested in for you. And then there are fiduciaries and certified financial planners who charge differently.
Yep.
Talk about that.
So the way we set up everything is we are flat fee advisors, which means that it's one flat fee for our different services. We have different levels of service you can still pick from. Our intro is a Childfree Wealth checkup is what we call. We do
Okay.
not do free consultation calls. It's you schedule this meeting, you pay to meet with us, and then we send you an intake form and we ask you some different questions. We go through it and we prepare a report before you meet.
Okay.
And that's current as of recording this today. It's priced at $250. And it's, hey, you pay this fee and we meet, we go through everything. Awesome. Then when we're working with clients on an ongoing basis, our current fee is $10,000 for the year and we bill that monthly. And there are a couple of different ways that we can bill that. We can either bill that using a credit card or a debit card, or we can also manage your investments if you would like. And then if we manage your investments, we can bill it out of your investment accounts. But the fee is still $10,000 for
Fee is
us.
the fee.
It's not going to change. There are people who will charge an A percentage, so assets under management. We're still doing but we're not doing a percentage. We're just doing flat fee.
So let's just make sure I understand. So if I'm
Yep.
investing, if I have $1 million that I want you to help me manage, I'm going to pay you $10,000 or around whatever your fee is at the time that I come into your thing. Right now, it's
Yep.
about $10,000 a year for you to advise me on the best way to do my investments. Will you, with that conversation, then will you do the trades and the investing for me, or do I have to go and do it myself?
We have options for both. So we can either take the assets under management and do the investment management, or we can do advice only. It's whatever people prefer. We
Okay.
used to only do advice only, meaning that we would walk you through it and then you'd have to click the buttons yourself. But there are people who just don't like to click the buttons themselves and get very nervous. And
Yeah.
that's okay too.
Yeah.
So it's either one, the fee is the same no matter what.
Okay. And then do you also take a percentage if I make money on my trades? Do you make money on my trades?
Nope, we do not
Okay.
take any other percentage.
Okay.
We have a belief that if you're aiming to die with zero, then charging a percentage of assets doesn't really work with that. Because, well, it could be conscious or subconscious. If you're charging a percentage of assets and say it's a 1% fee, there's fees can be anywhere from 1% to 2%. Sometimes they might be a little bit lower. But if you're charging a percentage of assets and or that's what you're paying and you have a goal to spend down your money, there might be a conflict of interest in there in which they're saying, hey, actually don't spend down the money, because every time you spend down your money and you're charging a percent, you're also getting your paycheck cut as an advisor.
Right.
Whereas as a flat fee, my paycheck is the same whether or not you put in $1 million, you put in 2 million, you put in 500,000. There's no, I can't be influenced by knowing that my paycheck is going to go down by having you take more money out of your account.
Okay. I was about to give the advantages of working with someone like you with that kind of fee compared to other, but I'm going to let you go ahead and do that. Give me advantages of working with someone who works flat fee and someone who takes a percentage. And I know all you guys are out there. Come on, Fro. Everybody can see that, but let's spell it out.
Yeah. So I have never been a percentage fan. It's just, especially with the die with zero concept. Also, it depends on what the planner is doing. I'm often less concerned about the percentage versus flat fee when it gets down to the nitty gritty, as I am when, as a whole, I don't love the idea of percentage because there are many people out there and they charge a percentage. They don't actually provide financial planning.
Mhm.
That's really important. So you need to think about, what are you getting for your fee? Are you getting financial planning, or are you just getting somebody who manages your investments and that's it? When we're
Okay.
talking about financial planning, we're talking about life planning. So we're going through, what do you want your life to look like? What does that really mean for you? Are your financial foundation, is that set up? Do you really have your investment set up? We go through your insurance. Let's make sure you have the right insurance for you. We don't sell any insurance. So if we're telling you to buy insurance, we're not making any money off of it. We're just telling you to buy insurance because we believe it's in your best interest
Okay.
to buy the insurance. We go through your investments. We follow a simple strategy. We want your investment to be simple. We don't want you spending a lot of time thinking about that. We always say simple finances, amazing life. That's our big motto.
Okay.
We go through, we work on a tax plan for you as well. How can we work through and make sure you're taking the best? What taxes are you paying? When are you paying them? And how does it work well for you? Sure, you can take and save some money this year on taxes, but saving money this year on taxes might not be the right move long term. So that's something we look through. We do not file taxes. I have people ask if we file taxes. We do not file taxes. We work
Okay.
on a tax plan, and we can collaborate with your CPA if you want to, and then go through and work on a tax plan together. We also,
We could be in a meeting together with you and the accounting firm, accountant, so everybody is on the same page with that thing. Guys, that's building
Yeah.
your team.
yep,
Teams have to
Absolutely.
talk. So you don't have a financial planner who doesn't know your accountant and an accountant who doesn't know they need to know each other so that everybody knows what's going on and is on the same page. I'm
Yeah.
sorry. And this is just the stuff that's just like, hit it home, get a team.
Yes. Absolutely. It's so important to have a team. And it's the same thing with estate planning. We go through estate planning, but we look at it from a financial side. We're not lawyers. We're not writing the documents for you. We're looking at it from a financial side and saying, hey, these are some things to be mindful of. Also, when we're going through estate planning, it can be really helpful for us because if I'm looking at somebody's will and seeing they're wanting to give a certain percentage to a certain charity, had they not given me their will to read, they might have never mentioned that they wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I can have that conversation and say, hey, I see that in your will, you say you want to give to such and such charity. Is it something you're still wanting to do? And if so, is it something that you maybe want to do now as well? Are there things you want to do now for them, or is it something you want to wait on? And having that conversation. So we're really going through and doing a bunch of different areas and making sure it's a very holistic view of your finances. And of course, we'll talk about retirement. What does that look like for you? Is it something you're really dreaming of, whether it be full retirement or a phased retirement, or maybe you want to keep working until you can't work anymore? So
Mhm.
we're going to plan for that. What does that look like? When it comes to the fees, though, well, I'm not a fan of percentage. Everybody knows that, I think. If anybody who knows me and has heard me talk and other things, I don't hide that. I really value more what is the actual service you're being provided
Yeah.
and what are you getting for that fee.
Okay. So that I really appreciate how you spelled out this is what you should be getting, not you call it you're not financial planning or managing assets. It's two
Mhm.
different things. And sometimes somebody calls
Absolutely.
themselves a financial planner and what they're doing is managing your investments, not
Mhm.
helping you plan. So there's a difference there. And make sure you're getting what you want.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
your company is called, or the
It's
company you
called,
work with is called
it's called Childfree Wealth.
Childfree Wealth. And how do people find you? How can they get to work with you?
The simplest way to find us is just to search Childfree Wealth. Our website is childfreewealth.com.
Okay.
Our podcast is Childfree Wealth, and we're on the different socials at Childfree Wealth. What I would highly recommend if anybody listening who is child free and saying, hey, this sounds like me, I want to see what things look like, go to our website, childfreewealth.com, and click the Schedule Now button, and then go ahead and book a checkup with us. That's going to be the best way for us to get connected and to go ahead and just start learning about what it looks like for you and what your finances look like with a child free lens.
And I think, and you said that initial consultation is $250.
Correct. Yep.
Okay. And even if you have a financial planner,
Mm.
I feel it would be a good idea, especially if you're child free, to talk with somebody who's looking at it through that lens.
Absolutely.
And it's a little bit different. And $250 is worth it to make sure that you may love the person you're with and want to stay with them once you've had a conversation with Bri or her team. Or you may say, oh gosh, they really do think about this a little bit differently. And maybe I should make a switch. Love this person over here. It's just that I need this different lens looking at what I do. A second opinion, you guys. You pay for
Yeah.
your second opinions in medicine. You pay for your second opinions in law. Pay for your you pay for them. And sometimes you say, okay, you're more comfortable with what you're doing, or you're like, oh man, I'm getting second opinions right now on my accounting. I'm just going to tell you. And I'm like having palpitations sometimes with some stuff that other people are telling me.
That's fair.
I didn't know. So,
Yeah.
second opinions. I love it so much. Child-free wealth, a different way to think about your money. It's not just, I don't have kids. I do it the same way everybody else does, because they're just from talking to Bri today and listening to this, I'm sure you can see there's different ways to think about it. Even if you're going to leave money, even if you think about leaving money here, but just to have that idea that, no, when I'm gone and my stuff can be gone, and that's good.
Yeah.
It's a different way to think about how you're managing your money. And it's very subtle. And I didn't even think about how other financial planners and advisors look at it through the standard of life. Is that what it is? Standard life plan?
Yes. Standard life plan. Yep.
Standard life plan. That's not everybody. That's not standard anymore, you guys.
Mm-hmm.
They got to come up with a new standard life plan. And there's lots of arrows coming off of that going different directions, because
Exactly.
standard's not standard anymore. Bri, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. It's really good. And I'm glad that we met and that we got a chance to let other people out there know that there's just different ways to think about money and having options.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. I love having this conversation and just sharing more about what it looks like to live a child-free life and
Appreciate it.
how you use your money differently.
I appreciate it so much. Thank you guys, everybody, and I will see you next week.